Please take the roll.
Mrs. Roth,
Here?
Mr. Peel,
Here.
Mr. Young,
Here.
Mrs. North, Mr. Van Houten.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. We did have a request to remove executive session number 3, so we can mark that off there. But other than that, are there any other requested changes or amendments? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to citizen participation. We didn't have anyone put their name on the list, but if there's someone that would like to step up, it looks like Mr. Peterman would like to. You just want to state your name and your address. I guess I already stated your name, but
Joe Peterman, 19431 West 200th Street. Since I came up and bitched last time about the underground work that they're doing, the terrible job of, I want to thank Jackie for all the work that he's done, getting the numbers and staying on top of it, because these guys are not fun to work with. We need to think of next time that they want to come to town and get a bond, get the bond higher. If they're not gonna deal with us, the right way, cause he's having to fight with them. We fight with him, but it don't go very far, we don't have enough clout. He fights with them and things do get done, but it's just, I wanted to say thank you.
I appreciate that. Anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and close citizen participation at this time and move on to a presentation by the Cemetery Board on their annual report. Mr. Larry Sumner, you have the floor.
Good evening. How are you all tonight?
Pretty
Good.
good.
We're always doing things at the cemetery. We had a good year last year. We did sell 37 different spaces. I don't know what happened, but everybody decided to buy. But it's been busy up there. We've been having, seems like 2 or 3 funerals a week for some reason, here lately anyhow. But we're running through our budget for last year from the money that we got in with the help of the city to help with the mowing and all. And what we did with the mowing and the landscaping, our bonding, insurance, supplies, it all washed out. We started out with, let me find it here for sure, $54,025, and we spent $55,128. I mean, we had some in the bank, ahead of time, but it came out in the wash. We did lose the company that was doing our mowing for us. They decided, they were young guys, decided to spend time with family, so that's great. But we did put it out and we got a new mower. His name is Mayers. He lives out east. He's already mowed it once, but he's came up there on his own time beforehand and picks up the sticks and the acorns, and he's trimming the trees along the fence. So I think he's gonna take ownership of it. And we're pleased so far with what he's doing.
That's
and his plans. We got new gates installed last year. We're gonna be finishing them up, trying to make them a little more secure to keep out individuals from, they can always hop the fence, but let's at least make them hop the fence instead of walking in. And thank to the police department that locks it up every night for us. It really cuts down on a lot of traffic. I talked to Jackie, we need a water line fixed. Our meter's a block away and we don't have water to continue, with our grass and doing what we need to do with the plots. We're looking at blacktopping maybe this year. We wanna do Jackie's gonna get somebody to come up with me and go over it to see if we need to seal it or do an overlay or what we need to do before we go spend some money. And since the city has got someone going on, we found it might be cheaper for us to have a continuation of rather than going out and getting our own.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be think it'd be cheaper. So, other than that, we have, Memorial Day coming up. Invite y'all to come out during that time to see we have our flags up. There'll be a program during the day put on by the Legion and the Auxiliary. I'm not sure what time it'll be, probably, it'll be out. I don't know what time they're gonna do it. I'm not part of that. But, you're all invited to come up and see us anytime. We meet the first Tuesday of every month. You're more than welcome to come to the meetings and see what goes on. If you run out of something to do in your spare time. Any questions or comments? Have you heard or see complaints or anything?
I haven't seen.
No, I'm glad to hear you got
Complaints?
somebody.
No. How much space do you have left?
We got a lot of space.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need to go to the south yet. We have some alleys that we can start filling. There's a couple thousand spaces
Okay.
up there. There was something, a year or two ago, we thought or was told that, I got the map and our computer system that we have our program on works great. You know, that we can know exactly what's there and how to manage it a lot better.
Good.
You said you had a good, was it month? Or good year? I'm not sure how to take that.
I know. I don't know either.
You sold 37 spaces, so maybe that's people just planning for the future,
It
but
helps fund what we do.
Sure.
What we wanna do. You know, half the money goes to paying for the space, and the other half goes to perpetual care.
sure.
It's $600 a space, and it's open for someone in the Spring Hill School District or city, or if you have relation that's buried there. You know, we're trying to keep it Spring Hill.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Anything? That's my report for this year.
All right.
Thank you.
Don't hesitate to stop by our meeting or come up during the services, and we'll see you then.
Good.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
what
you.
you do. Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
You bet.
Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda, and these are items that are just considered by staff to be routine business items. Are there any requested changes or amendments to the consent agenda?
You just
We're not doing
There was
skipping
a-
discussion?
Yeah.
There's a few items.
Sorry, I skipped two whole items. Just moving too fast today. Next, we'll move on to a discussion item. This is on the reserves at Sweetwater Flats and Austin Keck with Overland Property Group. And Mr. Burton, you have the floor. Or Austin Keck, either one. It's got both your names on there, so whichever one of you wants to start. Usually I mark them off.
We
I
had some
didn't.
technical difficulties with files and stuff, so we're gonna try and project some stuff up here. My name's Austin Cack. I'm a developer for Overland Property Group. We primarily focus on affordable housing. We were founded in the state of Kansas, and the majority of our business is done in the state of Kansas. We do development across kind of the center of the country, states Kansas, Iowa, Texas, Colorado, Oklahoma, et cetera. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about a proposed development on the south end of town. We're calling it the Reserves at Sweetwater Flats. It's located at 223rd Street and Victory Road. And really what I'm here tonight to talk to you about is a little bit more about the program that we operate under, and then a potential request that we have of the city to help us kind of get this thing across the finish line. So we have a couple of documents we can throw up here. I have let's try this one first. So we have a site plan that y'all can see here. So as I mentioned, we're on the south side of town, near 223rd Street and Victory. We're proposing 2 residential buildings, a total of 48 units. There will be 12 one-bedroom units, 24 two-bedroom units, and 12 three-bedroom units in what we're calling a family-style development. And really what that's aimed towards is, having multiple occupants per individual unit. So we want to make this as much of a community space as possible. There will be a community clubhouse, a playground, a walking trail, potentially, really just trying to set the development up to be successful in the area. The program that we operate under, restricts the type of rents that we can provide to the tenants to be within an affordable limit. And there's a kind of a complex program that backs it, and that I'm happy to go into detail on. And if you guys would like some explanations as to that, I think the one thing that I would like to say is we're not Section 8 housing developers. It's a completely separate program. So when people hear affordable housing, I think their minds kind of jump to that immediately, and that's not the case with ours. We operate under what's dictated as Section 42, and what it allows us to do is to offer market rate quality apartments at restricted rents, and we do that through a variety of different allocations and approval processes. Those approval processes go through the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, and really what I'm in front of you tonight to try and maybe explain a little bit more about our situation is that they go through a competitive allocation process. So they have a set of scoring criteria that they place priority on certain developments in certain areas, and there's a bunch of stuff that goes into that. There's design characteristics. There's, how close are you to core amenities like, a grocery store, a school? Are you in a rural community where the population isn't as high as what you would have in a metro area? What are the actual design characteristics of the facility? Energy efficiency standards? Are you preserving housing? Are you providing new housing? There's, a multitude of different criteria that go into the approvals on their end. And what they do is, they might have 15 to 30 applications that get submitted every year, and they go through and they competitively allocate them. They score them, 1 to however many are applied for, and then based on those scores, that's how they allocate them. Top scoring developments receive the approvals to move forward. There's a specific category in that scoring criteria that is tied to fee waivers or incentives from the city. And that's ultimately what I'm here to discuss with you guys tonight is we would like to pursue a $20,000 either in-kind contribution or fee waiver or something along those lines to really kind of beef up our application with the state and try and make this as competitive as possible to move forward. So maybe a couple of points that I think can help kind of justify the request. We're projecting close to between $40,000 and $50,000 in annual property taxes supported by this development. So if you just kind of do a real quick back of the napkin math, that's a 6-month payback on the incentive request. But in order to get to that point, we need the development to be approved. And so I think it's kind of a mutually beneficial situation where we're asking something of the city, and in return we're hoping to provide kind of a dual mission. One is providing a high quality affordable housing community for residents of the area, and then to add to providing an increment to the tax base in order to support future endeavors that Spring Hill might have. So I know that was a lot of detail about the site and basically the program we operate under. Really what I'm here for is any questions about it. I'm not sure what the actual formal process is for an approval on something like this, but really just trying to open it up for any conversation that you guys might want to have about the development, about us as developers, the process, the timeline, the budget, the investment, really anything I'm happy to go into detail about, but figured I'd kind of propose it to you guys and let the conversation kind of go wherever it needs to.
Can you say those initial numbers again of units?
Yes, there will be 48 proposed units for this development, 12 one-bedroom units, 24 two-bedroom units, and 12 three-bedroom units.
Would they be mixed among the buildings, or would it be?
Yes, we stack. I can't remember exactly how we split them between the buildings. We stack in units of 6, so there will be 6 in the front, 6 in the back, and then there's kind of spread out. So I believe we did, if I remember correctly, 12 one-bedroom and 12 two-bedroom in one building, and then I think 12 two-bedroom and 12 three-bedroom in the other building.
Okay. Is that why this one's a little bit bigger, probably?
Yes, yeah, it's the extra size from the larger units.
When it comes to the rent control, how is that controlled? Is it controlled by their income? Is it controlled by just that's what the flat rate is, and you have to fit into this criteria, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there is an income limit based on area median income. So our residents have to have incomes that qualify, and then based on those incomes, we limit the rents to essentially 2.5 times their what they can support from a monthly income perspective.
Each unit could be different based off of
Yes.
the income of the actual.
Yes,
person there.
that's
It
correct.
gets individualized to whoever the person living there is, or family, or whoever.
Correct. We underwrite them at kind of a standard level that we think is supportable by the characteristics of the area. We commission a market study that kind of tells us, you know, what the incomes look like in the area, what the populations look like, and what levels are supported, and then we kind of base the baseline rent off of that, and then have to kind of adjust as we get tenants that apply and make sure their incomes qualify.
How do you prioritize the tenants? Is it first come, first serve, or is it if we have 3 people that want 1 unit, but you can get more rent out of somebody because their income's higher? How do you do that?
It's typically first come, first serve. I don't operate on the asset management side. The general way that we approach it is first come, first serve. So if 2 people kind of apply at the same time, I'm actually not sure what the delineation or the deciding factor is between the two. But for the most part, it is a kind of a first come, first serve basis, as long as their incomes qualify for the restrictions. And those restrictions are tied to the unit specifically. So like a 30% AMI unit will be a 30% AMI unit, and that will be restricted to a subset of the population. All of them have the same finishes. All of them have, you know, the same general design parameters. But the general sense is that it's first come, first serve for the most part.
And are these year leases, I assume?
That's typical for us. In Kansas is a year-long lease. The program we operate on doesn't mandate a specific lease term, I don't believe, but we typically operate on year-long leases.
What's the time frame then, Austin, for the duration of the contract or your guys' commitment to the community?
Our contract, the initial compliance period is 15 years. Those almost always get extended to 30 years. And we're long-term holders of these developments.
I was wondering if you guys manage it the whole time.
Yes, we have a third-party management company that will actually be the on-site presence, but we have an asset management team that kind of oversees all of the developments, and we make frequent trips to all of them. Our office is in Leawood, so we're like 15 minutes away. So we have a presence that can, actually, I think the asset manager that's over this lives in Baldwin City, so he's a pretty close drive as well. But yeah, we're tied in for the long term on these. We don't develop them and then 2 years from now sell them. We're maintained into long-term compliance periods, and those are typically, you know, a minimum of 30 years, and then it's kind of a complex process, but they get what's called resyndicated a lot of times at 15 years, and that just extends the compliance period again to another 30 years.
Do you have other properties right now in the area that are in that 15 to 30 year period that you still hold?
Yes, I think every development in Kansas that we have right now is still in that initial compliance period. I think I have a resume here that has a bunch of them.
That's what I'm getting at is, I would like to probably see maybe like a resume of like, this is what it looks like after 5 years, we have it after 10 years, after 15. Like, just to basically see how you guys maintain it, because I think that's a
Upkeep
big
and stuff,
concern.
Yeah.
For a lot of
Absolutely.
people is the maintenance on these properties.
And I think that was one of the big concerns with another development, Blackhawk, another apartment development, and there was a lot of concerns when it was initially built years ago that, you know, the appearance and how they would upkeep it, and they've done an excellent job keeping it up, and so it's
Yeah.
been a huge success, so if we did something again, we would like to mimic that in keeping it up and
Yeah.
being in a quality place.
Well, and the big difference is here is this is income based.
Right.
Which I don't believe Blackhawk
No.
is.
It's
not,
And we only have, I think, one other development in the city that is income based. Does
Yeah,
that sound
over
like
here.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I was
this
gonna
is
say, can we
certainly
put the
something that-
picture back up? of-
something definitely needed,
Yeah.
for sure.
Those are all your properties?
Somewhere around here.
I was more, the one that shows
Flip it.
what they kind of look like,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
that first one you had.
This one?
No, the one before that, underneath.
Oh, yes. So this is the clubhouse. And then, maybe give you a second to take a look at that. And then this would be one of the facilities.
So they're about 3 stories tall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's 3 levels.
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to figure out where you got your number, got to your 48 with just the 4 structures.
Yeah.
And there, I'm assuming there's no garages, it looks like.
There are not garages for this
Is
development.
there covered parking at all?
There's not covered parking
Okay.
currently planned.
Is there any, there's no age restriction, it's strictly income?
No, it's strictly income based. Honestly, the majority of the communities that we operate in kind of fall on 2 ends of the spectrum. The first part is really like early career people who are on limited incomes, just their first job out of school. I think a good example, actually, I was looking at the city website, and there's a public works posting for a maintenance worker. I think all 3 of those all 3 of the levels for the maintenance worker that would have the job in the city would qualify for the majority of the apartments. So that's kind of one end of the spectrum, and then the other end of the spectrum is typically fixed income seniors that are operating on will either have a hardship that causes them to go on severely limited fixed income, or they don't have a home, and that's kind of like the other end is really people on limited incomes that are fixed, kind of on the senior side.
Is it all stair or is there any elevators?
There will not be elevators for this one. They're all external accesses on the breezeway. Typically, developers that operate in this program kind of make a determination between a family style development and a senior development. Senior developments typically have elevators. Family style do not. But again, we usually we don't set a delineation between the two.
Yeah.
If we had a senior that wanted to live in the community, we would likely try to put them on the first floor if possible.
From what I could tell, it looks like there's obviously a plan for a phase 2 in front of that too.
Yes, this is a little bit more of a conversation that we still have to have. I think, most of our developments do really well in the state of Kansas, and the need is demonstrated to be there. So we try to fit the community as much as possible. We believe there's enough room for a phase 2, but we also don't want to overcrowd the area if public sentiment doesn't support it. So I think the plan is we've laid it out just to show that it can support a second phase. But as we go through the due diligence process, we'll kind of work with the local community, local governments, kind of all of our underwriting staff to kind of make sure that that's really what's needed in the area and make sure that we're not, overcrowding the place, or on the flip side, not providing enough housing and we need to go higher density.
So once they're in there, is there an income check every year, or can they graduate out and you kick them out, or how does that work?
I think so. It varies by state, and I believe in the state of Kansas there is only an income qualification when the
With the
unit
first
turns over. I think that's the case. And if not, I think there's a barrier between you can't just kick someone out of their
Yeah.
apartment if they start making too much.
That kind of was, I think there's a big need for this. I live right there, so for people who complain, I'm like, well, I live there too. I live right next to Blackhawk, so I think this is a good spot, because like you said, for me, this kind of stuff always needs to be close to the grocery store and stuff like that, because you're gonna have people who walk and things like that. So to me, it's a good spot. There's nothing there now. It's been sitting for a long time. Obviously, stuff like this, I think, will bring more retail in that area. So with that other development going in and having some retail space in the corner there, and then there's some more right up front by the bank. I like this type of thing, especially if we have a company that's going to maintain it for a long period of time, because that's the biggest issue in my mind is long-term longevity of how it looks and how it's maintained. So with a bigger company like yours that's going to maintain it, I don't have a problem with it. I think
And
all
with
the
being-
answers you've given, I feel good about it. But
Being close to the highway too.
yeah,
That's
Absolutely.
a big stipulation too.
yeah, this is walking distance from everything over there.
Yeah.
Well, again, like we said, there's literally, I think, just one development in Spring Hill right now that serves this type of population. So, with the growth that we've had over the past, we've doubled in 10 years, right? I don't know how old that first development is that is similar, but the time for a need for something like this is now. We have
Like,
people that,
yeah, there's the high school graduates that decide to
Yeah.
work or whatever it is, or in college, and then you got single families. It happens, and there's really not a place for people to go when they jump down to a single income with kids, and they want to keep their kids in the same school or whatnot. These are
Well, and
the options we need to have.
I like your point of literally the people that we're trying to attract to work for the city.
Yeah.
Like, we want you to come work for us, but we don't have a lot of options for you to live here and enjoy this community that you're working so hard in, so this is it, so.
And,
Yeah.
and we've heard from so many we've heard from the school district, we've heard from manufacturing facilities here in town, we've heard, from Seats especially, we've heard from a lot of different, even Cardinal FG, a lot of different ones have mentioned that, a lot of their workers would like to live here in town, but there's just nothing they can afford.
Well, this is only 48 units, so.
Yeah. Well,
Well, that's why I was
Maybe
asking
more.
about phase two. I actually think it'll work out good. So, is there a plan? Is there any future for more of that? But
So I don't want to rain on everybody's parade, but, so what do you need the 20K for?
So this is really just a check the box exercise from the allocating agency. Again, these applications are competitively ranked against each other, and I think, for example, you get a preliminary score when you submit a pre-app in January, which is what we did. They rank those. I think the maximum score was a 58, and these are not publicly disclosed, so I won't tell exactly what we got. The maximum score was a 58, and we were on the upper echelon of pushing that. When they go to finally rank the criteria, they look at a much more expanded set of qualifications, and in a rural community, which is what Miami County is designated, a $20,000 fee waiver is worth 20 points. So in terms of, a max being 58 and us being at the upper echelon of that, when we go for the full app, it ends up being a pretty substantial portion of the scoring criteria. And since it really is a black and white system when it comes to how they allocate them, they go highest scoring development first, and then they step down until they run out of approvals, and then everyone else is kind of, left out this year and they have to apply next year. So it really is just a check the box exercise. In a lot of other rural communities, you'll see things like tax abatements typically done. We're not requesting a tax abatement at this time. For example, we're actually working on a development in Salina right now. That is a historic rehab of an old, manufacturing facility. That development utilized industrial revenue bonds for a sales tax exemption. So there usually are soft sources that are available, but we think that given the unique proximity of this to the Kansas City metro area and us being able to kind of take advantage of some, they're basically like logistical things that don't really apply. It's kind of a unique situation for us. That gives us the opportunity to do this without as many soft sources as some of the other rural developments might need to capture.
Yeah, for me, I'd rather waive the 20,000 and get it back in 6 months and move forward and have the tax revenue there and options for people. So
And it's competitive scoring, like
Yeah.
grants get scored a lot like this, so
Yep.
they're looking for the city to have buy-in and approval and want this development to come.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think one last clarifying point there is, I think the building permit fee is probably the best way to do this because, to get to the point of having a building permit fee, you have to be through all your entitlement processes, the allocation has to be made. Again, we're open to however the city is willing to support us. But I think from that perspective, putting it at the end of the process limits the exposure that you guys have if for some reason, like we didn't have a scoring application that worked or something, you're not giving us $20,000 that we're gonna walk away with. So, that being said, open to however, whatever is possible, and then, just really wanna try and, get this thing across the finish line and provide the housing.
I agree. I think the fee waiver is probably the way to go. I don't know how much what would the building or what would the permit fee normally be?
Will it be?
Typically, what we do on this is you would just say that any fees associated with this that the city would charge would be waived up to an amount of $20,000.
Okay, yeah, see, that's,
And it's a simple vote process.
yeah, that seems,
I'm good with that.
yeah, better than kind of the other options, the soft ones. I wouldn't want to go that route for something this size.
Right.
What's your timeline?
So applications we intend to submit our application at the end of the month. Technically, the application deadline is in May. I believe the allocation deadline is the end of June, maybe early July. And then at that point, that's when we go through the full-blown entitlement process design. So I think we'll be ready to start construction by, fall. It just becomes, as weather allows. Usually our cutoff is if we're ready to start construction by October, we'll go ahead and start because we can get it out of the ground. If it pushes into November, really Thanksgiving, we end up waiting until, the weather clears in order to have a fully, front to back construction timelines.
Optimistically looking at starting construction later this year.
Yes.
Do you put any kind of basement or anything in the clubhouse or how do you do that?
We do not. One thing that we have been evaluating more often is a storm shelter. So I think for us, I would envision if we did something, we would not put a basement, or we don't typically put basements in the majority of the developments, but we're looking at potentially trying to offer some sort of storm shelter in the community area, or maybe as an offshoot of one of the or both of the buildings. But we don't typically do basements.
Okay.
Too much upkeep and water and everything.
Flooding.
Yeah, and it ends up being a lot more involved. Some of our developments do have basements, but a lot of them are rehabs of existing housing facilities that we're trying to maintain.
Well, I'm interested, so.
I think it's a much needed thing, for sure.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
Bill's got a question back now, if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I think he would, I think in order to go ahead with the completion of the process, they were kind of looking for a vote on it to make sure that they can go on
Formal.
with the approval process.
Mr. Peterman, if you want to step up here and ask your question.
I'll talk loud enough, everybody will hear me. I just wanted to say, how many square feet in a single, how many square foot in a double and a triple?
So I think our one bedrooms are roughly 700 square feet. I believe it's like 700, 900, and 1100 for the most
So
part.
pretty typical to the.
Yeah, pretty standard.
That's a good question. I didn't think about that.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I guess we're looking to entertain a vote.
I was gonna say, yeah. you
So
have
I was
to-
gonna say, I think we would have to amend the agenda,
Yeah.
right?
Probably.
Yeah,
if-
no,
if
we
we're wanting
would,
an
we'd
official
bring it
vote.
back to the next,
Yeah.
I'm
I was
sorry,
gonna say, we-
I
Today, I
didn't
don't
mean
think
to, say tonight, but we'll bring it back to the next meeting
Yeah.
or a future meeting.
Any other questions? Alrighty, thank you so much. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
Next item on the agenda is a proclamation. April 28th, 2023 is Arbor Day. And in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and this holiday is called Arbor Day. It was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. Therefore, I, Joe Berkey, Mayor of the City of Spring Hill, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 to be Arbor Day in the City of Spring Hill, Kansas. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. The first item on the agenda is consider of approval of ordinance number 2023-08, ordinance authorizing issuance of industrial revenue bonds taxable under federal law, Series 2023, Gemtech LLC, in the amount not to exceed $8,935,000. Mrs. Dunn or Tyler?
I'm gonna-
you have the floor.
Like you got
Yield
Tyler.
to Tyler.
You don't look like Mrs. Dunn.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tyler Ellsworth with the Kutak Rock Law Firm, City's Bond Counsel. As the mayor indicated, this agenda item is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of IRBs for the benefit of the new Gemtech project at Webster and 185th Terrace. I'm going to provide a little bit of background on what you're being asked to consider this evening, but before I do that, I just want to mention that Mr. Dan Carpenter, the owner of the project, is here with us tonight in case there are any questions or if he wants to say anything. I'm sure that would be appropriate. By way of background, just briefly, I think it's a helpful reminder that the industrial revenue bonds that this ordinance authorizes are not being used for true financing here. So they're not repaid from taxes of the citizens. It's really just a vehicle to provide a sales tax exemption on construction materials for the project and also to offer the company a tax abatement. So I think it's helpful to keep that in mind. And the bonds, in fact, are paid back from the lease payments that are made by the company to the city. The industrial revenue bond structure requires a leaseback. The company leases to the city leases a constructed project back to the company pays the city rent, and those rental payments are used to pay off the bonds. So there's no real financial piece that the city's contributing here. The city's not coming out of pocket. The expenses are borne by the company, and really it's just a vehicle for the sales and the property tax abatement. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. If you'd like to hear from Mr. Carpenter, that would be.
No, I mean, I think.
Any questions or comments or any questions for Mr. Carpenter?
Tyler, would you tell them how this impacts the debt of the city?
Happy to. It doesn't impact the debt of the city at all. So the city has separate general obligation debt, which is backed by property taxes, and there's certain restrictions on that, limitations on that. because this debt is a revenue bond and it's not payable from property taxes, it doesn't count against your debt limit.
Any other questions or comments?
No, excited to get them up and running.
If not, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll? After we have a motion.
Very exciting stuff.
Very exciting.
I move to approve ordinance number 2023-08, authorizing issuance of industrial revenue bonds, series 2023 for Gemtech in the amount not to exceed $8,935,000.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, now, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes?
Mr. Peel.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tyler. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of resolution, consider acceptance of bid for long-term strategic financial plan and authorization for the execution of contract documents. Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. For several months now, we've been talking about the opportunity to have a long-term financial plan developed for the city. We have so many growth initiatives that are happening. We need to have a model that we can work with to say, what if we need to do this? What if this opportunity comes along? How does our debt look over the next few years? Our revenue streams? There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. So we have put out an RFP. And tonight, we're very happy to tell you that we received 2 responses to that RFP. And it was a tough decision, picking one over the other, but would like to approve the bid from Baker Tilly to provide these long-term services to us. The reason that they were selected are pretty straightforward. We have an ongoing financial relationship as municipal advisor, so the learning curve is much not as steep with them because they know our operation pretty well. Also, the fact that they do this modeling for other cities. So the other folks that we talked to more than the other candidate. None of them had done it before, and they were very interested in doing it. And whereas Baker Tilly already does it, and they'll be teaching us, I thought we would be spending time teaching the other groups to do what we are looking for. So the cost to do this is on an hourly rate, and Baker Tilly has quite an experienced team. They estimate the hours to create the model and implement it would be about $40,000, but it will be billed at their hourly rate. So if we use fewer hours, it will cost less. So tonight I'm asking you to approve the Baker Tilly bid or proposal with a not to exceed $40,000 for the cost. Baker Tilly's put together quite an experienced team. I'm really excited at the opportunity to work with them, but I'm more excited to see us put a plan in place that can, again, continue to build that foundation so we can plan the right future for Spring Hill. I'd take any questions that you have.
This $40,000, obviously that's for 23, 24, it would be
I don't
less
believe,
because there's less implementation?
yes,
Less,
once
okay.
the model is developed, we would pay for their service if we use it. It would be my goal to be able to work in that model myself, or in my team, but if not, then we would turn to them and they would bill us hourly rate. So it would be, one, I hope we're so busy with so many projects that we use them a lot, but I think it would be not something we would tweak often.
But this is not something that they're just implementing and then they say, here you go, good luck.
And that's exactly why we hired them, because that's not what we want. We want an ongoing relationship to say, hey, we have a new idea, or what if, so we can run those what if scenarios all the time.
Some variable shifts.
Exactly.
So the first year is going to be like possibly the more significant.
Yes.
It's most
Start from scratch. Yeah.
No, and I thought it was really good when we went through them, that just how many different experts they have, so.
Yes.
When it comes to wastewater, when it comes to all the different things, so. It's gonna be really good to have and give us a plan, and then we can pivot with them in the future, since we already work with them, and like I said, they know us really well, so.
That's right.
Yep.
And they were much more realistic on their pricing, I thought, or their hours.
I thought so
Or
too.
The other one.
Yeah,
And I think they had a very different approach, because they've done it before. They gave us an example. Here's the one we did for another city. And I thought that was really important to say, yeah, this isn't exactly what we're looking for, but we're a growing city compared to a city losing revenue. So different but similar.
No.
and I think like some others have mentioned, we've already built that trust up with them, so we already
Right.
know. We already know we can trust them, whereas trying somebody new is a gamble.
Right. Great.
Cool.
If there aren't any further questions, then I'm asking that you move to accept the proposal from Baker Tilly and for the long-term financial plan with a cost not to exceed $40,000 and authorize the mayor or his designee to sign the documents.
Are there any further questions on that? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to accept the bid from Baker Tilly for a long-term financial plan with the cost not to exceed $40,000 and authorize mayor to sign the documents for the project.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you. We'll get to work.
Nice.
Next item on the agenda is consider approval of resolution number 2023-R-10. It's the 2023 water rates and system development fees. And Mrs. Dunn, you still have the floor.
Thank you very much. I was here on March the 9th and did a presentation and showed you a lot of information from other communities around us on their rates, as well as the proposed rate, it's not proposed, the approved rate increase from our water supplier in Miami County. And from that, we proposed a rate change for our water department, making it, one, we had to recoup our price increase, and two, we want to remain, I'll say, competitive. I don't know that utilities are competitive, but we want to have similar pricing to the communities around us. So we have proposed rates that are in the resolution. I won't go over all of them, both the monthly charges as well as the per gallon rate. That on March 9th, I provided to you the impact it would have to an average bill in Spring Hill is about a 10% increase in their cost every month. I think it was about $10, $11 per month. Can I answer any questions about the proposed rate change?
Didn't I see somewhere in here that they hadn't been updated since like a while ago? Was it
The
COVID?
system development fees had not been updated for several years. The rate has typically been increased 3% every year. Just a standard cost of living increase. But yes, we were really behind on system development, and we are proposing increases for those because it costs a lot of money to put in a new water line and water meter somewhere. And so we want to make sure we're covering our costs as well as encouraging development. We didn't want to price ourselves out of business or anything like that. So we have proposed significant increases. We did really focus on the lines that would go to single-family homes because those costs simply get passed on to the home buyer, and we didn't want to increase those, so we kept them pretty much the same on the lines that go to a single-family home.
I appreciate all your research in looking at what others in our, similar communities or surrounding communities are doing, because I think that makes a difference, and it shows that we were a bit out of sorts. And so, I mean, nobody likes to raise fees, but sometimes you have to, and we can't, we have to have revenue to supply the amenities that we're supposed to be supplying our, citizens. So this is a way that we can not make money, but cover our costs and be more in line
Exactly.
with what the market is. So
This
thank
one was really prompted by an increase in our cost, and the water utility has to support itself. It is not funded by tax dollars, so we have to pass that cost on to our customers.
Yeah, I really tried to go in and find a way to not raise it that much, but this is the most reasonable
Good.
increase, I think, there. So I wanted to come back and be like, no, we can do this.
We can do it.
Yeah, no, it was unfortunate, but $11, I think, this year I think is probably our biggest jump, and we'll go back to kind of the normal cost of living increase. But yeah, this one was pretty necessary, I think.
We also put things in place to be working closer with our suppliers and the Hillsdale Area Lake Authority and the State Water Office, so that Jackie has some support from finance that we can work together and make sure we're in the loop and in the room when those decisions are made. So
Yeah.
Just for clarity, cause number 11 is the sewer rates and number 10 is the water rates. Approving both of those will be just the 10% increase. It's
That
not
is correct.
two different 10% increases.
No,
Okay,
the
that's-
11%, thanks for pointing that out.
That's how I
is-
was reading it and that's how I was
Yes.
understanding it. I just wanna make
Yes.
sure that's understood, cause it would be easy to misinterpret that.
Yeah, no, you were exactly right.
Any other questions or comments on that one?
No.
If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to adopt a resolution number 2023-R-10, a resolution establishing monthly water user charges and water system development charges relating to the water rules and regulations of the city of Spring Hill, further rescinding resolution 2020-R-12.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I would like to point out, on section 2, the water system development charges, there's a decimal point instead of a comma. So like, it says 4.000. So I was just gonna point that out, that we will have you sign a corrected copy that shows instead of a decimal, it should be a comma for like,
Okay.
because that could be interpreted as something
A
different.
lot larger,
It's a
Yeah.
type.
Or a lot smaller.
Yeah.
a lot smaller, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out, that we'll have you have that corrected.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
so we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of resolution number 2023-R-11, and it's the 2023 sewer rates and system development fees. And Mrs. Dunn, you still have the floor.
I won't spend a lot of time. It's the exact same story as the water rate. We looked at the area around us. We left a lot of, where we can, we left it alone. We tried to minimize the impact to a household. It is a part of the $11 or 10% increase on the total bill that a user would see. And we adjusted our system development fees in the same way, not the same dollars, but the same way that we did for water as well. Any questions I could answer on sewer rates?
And we're continuing to do the quantity check through the down months, right? Not through, for the sewer.
For the
'Cause-
winter months?
Yeah, we do it through the winter months, right?
We're doing that right now, as a matter of fact, and it'll be implemented for the next billing that goes out,
Okay.
which is May 1st.
All right.
These increases will go into effect for that billing as well.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 2023-R-11, resolution establishing monthly sewer user charges and sewer system development charges relating to the sewer rules and regulations for the city of Spring Hill, further rescinding resolution 2020-R-13.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I would like to point out in section 2, the 10-inch meter has a decimal instead of a comma, so we will correct that for your signature.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see it there.
I'm gonna get better glasses.
That's a big difference.
Spell check won't catch that. Yeah, that is a big difference, yeah.
Yep, there's several on there. Yep. Okay.
Sewer's only got one, but water's got a lot.
Yeah, so there's like water's got several, sewers only got one. So
Everybody's gonna go for a 10-inch.
yep. Yeah, water's got quite a few. So, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of selection of OpenGov to provide budgeting and planning services to the city and authorization for the execution of contract documents. And Mrs. Dunn, you're a popular woman
I am.
this evening.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that it's projects getting carried over the goal line finally, and so it's good to be up here and see things through. I have two people on the line in a Teams meeting with us tonight from OpenGov. One is Jess O'Shea, and she is our account manager, the person that's been working with me on their proposal, and will also see us through the project if you approve it tonight. She works only with public sector and has been doing it for about 5 years. The other person on the phone is Samantha Chandler, and she's a solutions engineer and a former finance director for the state of Tennessee. That's the kind of folks that we work with at OpenGov. And they're here in case you ask a technical question I can't answer. They'll be happy to step in and help out. And we appreciate their time tonight. The presentation. There we go. And can I change it from here? Do you have to do it for me? Okay. Right in front of me. Perfect. I am really excited to propose the use of OpenGov for a budgeting and planning system for us. I took proposals from 2 different vendors. Again, another tough decision for the quality, but I really am very comfortable with the approach that OpenGov has and the level of support, obviously with 2 people on the phone tonight, willing to help in the decision-making. And so I'm really excited to do exactly what it says, is power a more effective and accountable government through our budgeting process. Maybe. There we go. So why do we need to make this change? Right now, I build the budget all by myself in an Excel spreadsheet, multiple large Excel spreadsheets. And actually, the state of Kansas spreadsheet is actually one of the most advanced spreadsheets I've ever worked in. Whoever built it is a genius, in my opinion. It's a time-consuming process. It's a manual process. And there's a lot of opportunities for error. I'd like to think there aren't any errors in the budget, but I've already run into one where we thought something got included in the budget and it didn't. And so I think building a better system is a way to improve what we're doing. Maybe. There is no integration with our financial system, so we build the budget in Excel. And before me, they key punched it into our Tyler Encode system. I will never key punch in. I will upload it from an Excel spreadsheet. I can key punch. Clearly, I'm good with commas and decimal places. So we want to do that in an uploading system. OpenGov will connect directly and upload and download from our financial system, which is a big improvement over where we are today. Collaboration means phone calls and emails and pieces of paper and us working together. With a system that we do budgeting in, department heads and directors will be able to go in and put their budget in, their comments in, and then I can go in and review it. It's a much better tracking, much better collaboration than where we are now. We need to connect our budget to our comprehensive plan. I did that manually for the CIP. This will be an opportunity to identify the comprehensive plan in our operational budget and make it a more seamless connection. We're going to have the ability to develop multi-year budgets. It is my plan to do a 5-year budget this year, and this tool will certainly help us do that. It will put an appealing budget book out. I ask all of you to run out and take a look at, and I emailed you some examples of budget books. And when you compare what we're putting out, which is checks the box and gets it done, but it really is not a budget book that looks like other cities. And it's really time for us to graduate to a budget book that's a much more appealing, much more transparent document or repository of information. We're going to improve, like I just said, the internal and the public transparency and better communication. So how does OpenGov compare? So right now, you know what I'm doing. Excel spreadsheets, they work. I love them. I live in them. I think like them. And then we would go to an online tool where we would collaborate together in an cloud-based tool on our network. And then our output would be a narrative, a storytelling, a public document that's much more driven towards providing information than an accountant's document. So who is OpenGov? This is like talking in a microphone at a baseball park. I have to wait for it to come back. They are actually a very modern partner for government, and this is their focus, obviously, with a name like OpenGov. They're very mission-driven. It's cloud-based software. It's built to be a more effective and accountable government. They are customer-centric. I keep saying, we'll get to that customer, that taxpayer input someday, and they're telling me, Rhonda, you're gonna get there much faster than you think. And so, very customer-focused, very responsive to me already, and we're not even a customer to them. And it is results oriented. They tell me we'll spend 80% less time reporting and 50% less time developing budgets. That gives us all of that time to do something else, hopefully something far more strategic. They have over 1,600 governmental customers, and just some in our area that you would be familiar with. Miami County is implementing OpenGov right now. I've spoken with their finance director, and he's very happy with the way they manage the process and how they're following their implementation plan. Goddard, Kansas, Prairie Village, Kansas City, Missouri. You can go out anytime and take a look at what products these folks are putting out. I also wanted you to see the team of people that's behind OpenGov. I told you a little bit about the folks on the phone, but you can see in here that, these folks have been, deputy city secretaries, they've been with state governments, they've been with universities. They're clearly government-driven, experienced people who develop the tools of OpenGov and our customer relationship with OpenGov as well. The other thing I like about OpenGov is that in addition, right now we're just looking at budgeting planning. They have other tools that could be of interest to us. I think there's some pieces of procurement that might be helpful to us. Jackie's already looking at asset management. We have a product that's probably going away and we're gonna have to find a replacement. OpenGov is someone we can build another really strong team to utilize their resources for our city. So how does it work? It's obviously a life cycle and a budget. It's really important to me that this is operational budget, the one that you look to see and approve every year. Our capital planning, workforce planning. We do workforce planning by the individual person, which is quite a thing to do. And right now we have 50 employees. What about when we have 100 and we're managing person by person? The OpenGov tool will give us the opportunity to do different scenarios. Well, what if we do this? What if we add this person? What if we add that? Which is much easier than altering an Excel spreadsheet that you have to maintain the integrity of as well. There will be an online budget book available to the public. We'll be able to report performance back, and we'll also be able to get community input for it. So they provide a budgeting environment. It empowers us to be the stakeholders and do the work for ourselves. They're not going to do the budget for us. It improves internal transparency, like we've talked about. We'll also have reporting dashboards, which we do not have today. I gave all of you a copy of your financial snapshot. That would be an online part of our dashboard, so you could access that from anywhere. Through the cloud, so that if you're in your business, you need to look up something for your side job as a city council person, that would be available to you. That to me is a giant step forward to us. We do not have any type of dashboard available to us in our current financial system, and so this is a big step forward. Workforce planning I've mentioned as well. This is a nice step forward, far better than what we're doing in Excel, and I think what we're doing in Excel is really pretty good compared to what I've done in the past. And then capital planning. One of the reasons I would like to have a budgeting tool like this is our capital planning. And none of you've sat in the rooms when we talk through the CIP and build it and figure out all the projects. We don't have a very good, I call it repository. I would like to move us to a page for every project, defined with a map, with a picture, with maybe the contract is attached to it, a description, a status. If you wanted to know what's happening on Lincoln Street, you should be able to go out here to this tool and pull it up and say, I thought we approved that money. I thought we did this. We don't begin to have a tool like this today. And if we don't purchase these services from somewhere, I'll have to create a tool they already have. That's how I look at that. I'm really, really excited to get our CIP to this level. And then the online budget book. In the end, the budget is a document. It should be a living document. It should be a repository of all of our policies and tracking our strategies and making sure we're implementing everything that we planned on. It can easily pull information into our dashboards and other reports, and it's a friendly online book that the public can use. They say that it will eliminate a large percentage of your information requests under the Freedom of Information Act, because we have it available on our website. This is an example of the dashboards that I talked about for us to help monitor performance. You can also put things in here. For example, if the chief wants to track calls to dispatch, that's an item we could put in here based on what we want to see on our dashboards. Sorry. Maybe. Another tool that is in this is something I look forward to is having one day is community input. When it comes to the budget, we hold public meetings. Of course, I answer phone calls and questions and things like that. OpenGov will give us a tool for the public to give us input to our budget in their time, not just at our meetings, not just during business hours, but they would be able to give us input, help us shape our plans and collect that information in a formal process. This is the area where I said, geez, someday I hope we get there, and they tell me we'll get there much faster than I'm prepared for, probably. And again, 50% less time will be spent preparing a budget, 80% less time on on reporting, 20% fewer information requests, and they believe they'll save us about 1% in our budget, which I think I calculated in the agenda review, that's about $125,000 a year in savings.
Do they have statistics to, I'm assuming, support?
To back that up.
Yes, they do.
So they're currently with 1,600 cities, you
Yes,
said? Municipalities.
governments, yep.
And how many hours would you say you spent on the budget last year? Or how many would you suspect if you did the same
How
one?
many would you fear that you spend?
You know what? I have never, ever looked. I had a lot of,
So the
12 and 13 hour
50%
days.
would be, a lot of time.
Say it again?
The 50% saving on time would be,
A lot, yes. It's also my plan to engage the whole finance team more. Because I do it all myself now, and that's not training anyone else to take my place someday. And so I hope to engage them as well.
I would assume,
Go ahead.
I would assume this would allow you to maybe have less people too. You wouldn't have to have as many people in the department, so we could save on a salary and benefits.
And I'll go yes, because I'd go the other way. If we were going to do the type of budgeting that we really should be doing, and this level of input and this level of output, I would need another person.
Okay.
So we're certainly saving from an additional hire
Yeah.
and those benefits. I estimated that would be a cost of probably $85,000 a year to hire a person to do it. So in 3 years, you'd be looking at $255,000 for a system that costs $120,000. So it's roughly 50% savings over trying to do the same output ourselves.
What are you
Plus
gonna
the
do with all
1%.
your free time?
Feel free to run by my office and see those stacks of things that I work on. And you know what? I would look forward to that. Think of all the things we could do.
So I
If I
think
wasn't in my Excel spreadsheet all the time.
one of the benefits too is reproducible, right? So other people can get in there. Not everybody's really, not everybody excels at Excel, right? So
Right.
that's, sorry, but that's, sometimes it's difficult to transfer that sort of knowledge and get other people to plug in. I'm familiar with Salesforce, which is, sales and
Right.
marketing uses a lot of these dashboards. I think it's, there's a tremendous amount of value to be able to share information. And not everybody's a numbers person like you. So you give me a graph and it's a little easier for me to understand sometimes. I think it's easy. It's just me, right? So I really like the dashboard. Something else I'm forgetting right now, but yeah. So what is the, do we have costs associated?
Yes, and actually, I can't get the slide to move forward. Oh, now it's gonna go forward. I'll skip forward. Great training, this is what this says. And they have a university available online. So what's it cost? There's an annual maintenance fee that goes from 20 to 24,000 over this 3-year period. That would be paid every year. And then this one-time setup we're using the state of Kansas government contract, which has a negotiated discount in it. And we are going to pay for 301 hours of work. I love 301, that's how specific they are, not 300. And that would be a cost to us of one time of $63,000. The other thing is, when it comes to Excel spreadsheets, you have to come ask me. I don't share my sheets, and I have to protect them. And so if Mona Keisha would like to talk about employees, I can send her my spreadsheet, but we really collaborate together. If we had one system, she'd be able to go in and do things that she wanted to do or look at or do scenarios, as opposed to we both have to do that. And so it's definitely an improvement in our tools.
What part of it would be on the website for people to be able to come and look at anytime?
And like, how does it integrate too? Does it integrate to our website, or would this be like a second website that you link to another spot to?
I'd be happy to let OpenGov answer that, but it would be connected to our website. The outside would never know it wasn't housed right here. It's housed in the cloud. And if you go out and check the others, you go to the finance department, you pick budget, and then a table of contents will come up. What part do you want to look at? What year do you want to look at? Well, I want to look at community development. You can dig down into those budgets page by page. And we would choose what's available to the public. I don't know what we wouldn't make available to the public. Obviously, employee level data would not be out there, but we would make it available to the public.
So as things get more complicated, right, as we're getting bigger, the transparency, I think, is crucial. It's hard to relay information on every specific project, So another benefit, I said earlier, I forgot what one of my benefits was. I think that's transparency is helpful too.
Well, that and the feedback too, just the feedback portion of it.
There was a
Yeah.
slide you had that had feedback.
That's a big portion if they can go in and.
We don't have
think
that
there's a lot of positives.
Yes.
Well, I think there's a lot of things I come up with that I'm like, I don't know what people think as a whole
Totally.
about this, and maybe can we use this to put questions like that out there to get kind of a vote/feedback on just random things that come up that we kind of are like, do we want to go that direction or not? Or
Let's see.
I don't know if that's something we want to.
Jess, can you hear me?
Sure can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Did you hear Mr. Young's question?
I absolutely did. Was it around the community feedback piece?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so that is a part of our reporting and transparency platform, which is all included with the budgeting and planning suite. And there's really a lot of different ways that you can utilize it, but one key piece is the community feedback. And that's something that we can work closely with the city to decide how you want to roll that out.
So we can ask like specific questions. I saw one on there that said, "How would you spend this amount of money?"
$500,000 or something.
Yeah. 500
Yeah,
bucks.
absolutely. Yeah,
No.
polling the community, really anything that you want to gather feedback within your community.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's a big piece that I really liked about it, but.
And again, we're not building those tools. They already have them. If we went to do a survey, we'd have to build a survey or go find Survey Monkey or something like that to
Surveys
do
are a
that.
nightmare, so if they have a good way to do it.
Exactly.
Well, and I think it helps us connect with the public to, like the word everybody says, transparency, where we can hear directly from the people instead of somebody hearing from somebody on Facebook and
Right.
somebody's brother, we're directly back and forth with the community.
I also think when going back to what the output is, there will literally be a book. Like I give you a binder, there would be a book, and a person could download the entire book off of our website. If they would like to see, save, print the whole thing, they could do that. If you want to pull one page out and we put it on our website or social media or something for a specific topic, we can just pull it out and do that.
Yeah.
I don't have to go out and create one or anything like that. The other piece that I like when you talk about graphing, because we build these from their templates, if I'm going along and I think I'm just so smart and this is the graph I have, and then I decide, yeah, that's not really the message I think we're trying to say, I have to rebuild everything. Well, with this, I just say, nope, I want this template, I want this, and then boom, it's a new graph. And so that's, to me, a huge time saver that we can really change things on the fly.
Yeah, you're paying for the work to be done already, which is.
That's right. Why would we invent it?
Right.
Right.
Well, I think even if you can get a 0.5% savings in the budget process. Our budget's so big that
Right.
this will pay for itself pretty easily with how sufficient or how, efficient it's gonna be. So I like it especially we talked about the other day. I mean, it seems like a
Good.
really good deal.
Can I answer any other questions, or do you have any concerns that you'd like us to?
Is the only fees associated after the first year just the software fees?
Yes, unless we
That
choose.
is correct.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was going to jump in. I was going to say absolutely, that's correct. Any additional support is included in the annual software cost. So you will have a customer success team to leverage as much training as you need, which is all included. So no hidden costs there.
Unlimited users, unlimited projects, unlimited budgets.
And do you is the pricing come out in 3-year increments like this to where we know what it's gonna be, or is it every year we find out after the third year what it's gonna be?
I would imagine we'll sign a new agreement in 3 years and,
That's what I was saying. So it's 3 years is kind of the average of what it goes out.
right.
And would we have, let's say we have it for 3 years, then we decide we want to do it for another 3 years, do we have to pay another professional development fee 3
No.
years from now, or do we just continue on whatever the
Right.
software fee is?
I think we would have development like any other project. If we said, hey, we want a whole new module and we're gonna budget for, Twinkies at the swimming pool or something. If we wanted to add a whole other function to it, I would be back here asking for more money.
Right.
I don't have anything in my future that needs to do that.
When it comes to the feedback, because it is online, is there some way to keep it to where there's some person can't feedback, 25, 30 times the same thing to try to,
Skew the answers.
do the answers? Is there a way to kind of
Bots?
manage that?
I'll start.
That's a Jess question.
Yeah.
That's actually a really great question. Samantha, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in there. So you guys can actually set where you can track who is giving that feedback. So whether you want them to be able to respond multiple times or just once is totally up to you. You can, depending on the question you're asking, may determine the answer to that. But you can then see exactly who is responding. You can even track demographics and locations off of where in your community those responses are coming from. So
That's
definitely
good
have
too.
the ability to limit somebody coming in and spamming you with 100 different answers.
Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, the comprehensive plan is how do we manage the feedback and make sure we get a good amount of feedback. So it sounds like this will give us another
Tool.
tool to do that. So for me, that's a big piece of it.
Right.
How long will it take to implement?
One of the things I like about OpenGov is they've given me a really detailed scope of work and they manage me to that deadline. There are different pieces that will fall in place, obviously for our budget deadline, by August 31st. The book itself will be ready for issue at the end of the year is the timeline that we're on. So it is a 2023 implementation. Some of it faster than others so that we have it for the budget process.
Did you say you spoke to Miami County,
Yes.
who was just recently implementing? Did you have a chance to talk to any of the others that had been using it for a while?
I did not talk to, I talked to one other city who is actually, if you go to their website and watch their testimonials, Lawrence is using it and they have a video on there with a testimonial. And we did voicemail, and his message was, if you're calling me about OpenGov, I have nothing but good things to say and I absolutely love it and we should have done it years ago. And so, I did get to talk to Miami County and they were following their scope of work. They were on time. They have weekly meetings. They have bi-weekly meetings. They have, depending on what part of the team you're working with. They certainly are project managers, which I value. Any other questions?
The 301 hours, I'm assuming that gets to be spread out across several of our staff people as opposed to a small team, or it's almost like 8 weeks worth of training. So we're gonna try and expose as many of our people to that as possible so they get up to speed with that, or is that kind of
The 301 hours are the OpenGov's man hours for the project.
okay?
We have unlimited training.
Okay.
And yes, we would train who needs to be. And so I'm thinking, for example, of the PD, they're very good budgeters. I certainly see the chief and captain because that's what they do. Then however, whoever else in their team should be involved, we could certainly get them involved.
Okay.
And when it comes to capital projects, that'll probably look really different because a whole lot of people have input to capital projects. So, and other departments don't use it at all. So, well, and it's unlimited, and their university is what they call it, is available online. You can also click in the product and get help and things like that.
I like it.
How soon, if we approve today, how soon would we get the process going? Is it like immediate? Is it-
Based on everything I've seen tomorrow, though, maybe she'll call me later, I'm not sure, but yeah, they're very Johnny on the spot and to manage the, and my own choices are, I need to get it implemented because it's time to start on the budget, and so we're definitely gonna start right away.
Yeah, that's what I would be, want to get it going sooner rather than later.
Yep.
They have also worked with Tyler, our financial software provider before, and so we're not blazing a trail there. They've worked with Tyler in the past.
So when we budgeted for this, was it for the 3-year term or was it for just the initial cost? We thought it was gonna be 245.
We're gonna pay the initial cost, and then I will budget for the other 2 years in the upcoming budgets.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so it looks like we came under what we initially thought for the budget of it? Cause it says we had budgeted,
245.
oh, yeah, do we budget
the
245 or that's what's in the fund?
That's what's in that account.
Okay.
For unplanned projects.
I was thinking we budgeted, I'm like, holy cow, we budgeted a ton for that.
No, I wish.
We came in way lower, okay. that
No,
makes
I
sense.
wish, but that's an account that we keep for things that come up that we can't plan for.
Yeah,
And so,
budgetable.
right.
Any other questions or comments? I like it.
It'll be a change for us and a change for the good.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome.
If there are no other questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the selection of OpenGov to provide budgeting and planning services to the city and direct the mayor and or his designee to sign the documents.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is consider acceptance of bid for utility locating services and authorization for execution of contract documents. Mr. Messer, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. We've been playing with this locate dilemma since last fall. We had Integrity did our locates, and all of a sudden we were ready. We negotiated an extension. We were all ready, and then all of a sudden they said, "We're not going to do it anymore. We're withdrawing from Spring Hill," and threw us into pretty much a tizzy because they gave us about 3 days' notice before their contract expired. They did do an extension for 90 days, and we went out with 2 RFPs trying to find somebody. And thank you very much for Spencer's working with USIC and for everybody's input to get us over the finish line. The last RFP, USIC had one that took a little bit of negotiating, but it was the only viable contract we had. To show you the acute need for this, I'm going to pick on one of our employees, Dave Carr. And he's just been out there. Let's put it this way. He's been working on it since last Monday. We've been doing our own. So he worked all last week about 11 hours a day to keep up. And Friday, he was so proud of himself, he was down to 9 left. Well, Monday morning, over the weekend, we had requests, got it at 51.
Another 80.
Monday evening, it was 58. Tuesday, it was like 88. And this is him working all day long, and that's the number at the end of the day. Yesterday evening, he was sitting on 118, and he and Dave Brown worked on it all day, and he's sitting on 119 right now. That's how many locates are coming in. And I would like to applaud his efforts to keep ahead of it because that wastewater plant's not waiting for him. He's trying to do 2 jobs at once. So appreciate his stellar efforts on this, but that's what staff's been trying to do to step up in this. So he will be very happy if we approve this for tonight. But anyway, I also threw some more figures in there to try to give you an idea how bad, how big this is. Well, I put in there that we range from 125 to 175 is what we've been paying Integrity. 175 would have been what I thought it would be the maximum. After last month being 22,000 for 1 month, and the fact that Comcast is gonna be bombarding us with locates through the end of the year, I think 175 this year is gonna be accurate. We spent 49,000 in the last 3 months. So with the contract with USIC, the prices are pretty compatible for what we were paying Integrity. Everything is pretty much compatible. We can live with all these requirements. Someday we might have to look at hiring our own people, but after this last 2 weeks, we're not in a hurry with that at all. Not in one bit of a hurry. So, staff recommends that we approve the USIC contract and give the mayor authority to sign it. And I kind of think I put in there when the final contract's received from legal, but it has been received and it's ready for signature. The alternative is to use city utility staff or return it back and maybe do another RFP or something. A legal review has been done, and like I said, the contract's ready if you approve it. And the impact is to the budget. This is paid for out of our enterprise money. Their water and sewer locates is what we're doing. In the near future, we're going to be required to do storm water locates as well, which are going to be a real nightmare because that's not really mapped as well as the other ones. But that's where we're at, and so we're asking you to approve the USIC contract.
You feel good about
Questions?
feel good about the service that they're gonna provide? Is it gonna be comparable to what we were getting before?
I think so. The problem is, they're almost overreaching what they can do, but they're the only game in town.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering is, are they gonna dedicate a certain amount of people to?
That's my
city?
worry is we put it out twice. We got one bid each time. I'm guessing it was the same company both times.
No,
So
no, there was two different
was
companies.
two different
One wasn't qualified, we threw it out, and then USIC was the second time.
It's just bidding process isn't real competitive, so that would worry me a little bit about quality.
USIC though, just being in the construction field, they've been around for a
Yeah,
long
they're-
time.
and
They're
what-
all over the place, everywhere.
Yeah, and we'd been with the other one for 8 years-ish, so a pretty long relationship there.
And they shrank their business and said, we don't want to do anything with shrink. They can't find the people to do it.
They can't
That's
keep
the
up.
issue with
They don't
that's the
have
issue with
bodies.
USIC.
Like everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place on this one.
Yeah, we don't have
Can't keep
any real
expecting our
choices
guys
or
to do
anything,
it.
Yeah.
but it's, I was just curious what your thoughts were about it.
I know what they're doing now. I've been talking to Comcast people and they're saying the USIC crews are barely staying ahead of them, barely. Instead of doing this entire area, they'll do just enough to keep ahead of their crews. They were telling me a couple of weeks ago, they brought in USIC brought in 3 people, only 2 of them were there at the end of the day. They're struggling to train the people. And our people are going back behind them, not necessarily doing the locates, but we're kind of doing a quality control behind them to make sure that, hey, you missed a line there, trying as hard as we can to keep. We were doing that with Integrity, so we'll do that with USIC. We'll kind of look over their shoulders, but we don't have the people either to do
No,
this. It's killing.
that's even more clear is that we can't do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And you said the pricing was comparable to
It was
what we
pretty
were
much
paying.
comparable, yes. I was surprised.
Yeah, I expected.
All right, well, Integrity was charging us this amount. They said, if we give you 90 more days, we're going to this amount. And we agreed to it because they had us over a barrel. Well, that's compatible, the higher price, which is what we were paying Integrity, is what USIC is going to charge us. I think someday we have to look hard about doing it ourselves, but we'd have to have a couple of people and probably USIC would steal them as fast as we train them. I mean, it's that competitive out there when you're paying $20, $25 to do it. We're just fortunate we were able to keep ahead of it so far. But we can't put Dave Carr out there endlessly because he's got a plant to run. So,
Okay.
although he's still working 11, 12 hours a day since last week and still losing ground.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the bid from USIC and authorize execution of the contract documents.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of change order number 4 with Sand Construction Company to install bases and plaques for battle crosses at Veterans Park Memorial. Mr. Messer, you still have the floor.
Okay, this one came up really quickly. I was talking to one of the donors who had given us some money, and they're gonna be willing to do the next phase, which are these battle crosses. For those who don't know what it is, it's like the rifle with the helmet on top. Well, we had taken the bases out of the contract to try to keep the contract a little bit lower when we ran into the $907,000 bid. Well, now is the time to put these bases in when we're pouring and doing all the other work. And the fact that we now have a donor, it's time to put that back in with this company. And they gave us a bid of $50,515.71. The reason it's also going to be, I think, a good idea is we're going to have these plaques on the base instead of having a base sitting there waiting till next year. He's actually going to have the creed of the Airmen, the Navy, the Marines on these plaques. And I don't see how we can do it any other way and to get the quality of work that we need if you try to go back next year and put these bases in.
Yeah.
So I asked him for an estimate. And the other thing about this that it makes it possible for the battle crosses, if we have the bases there, we may have donors that it's a smaller bite. They don't want to pay $60,000 for 6 battle crosses, but they might be willing to pay $10,000 to be able to do one. And so this is going to allow us to not solicit, but accept donations for the battle crosses as people step up and say, what can I do? So I think it's pretty imperative to get these bases in at this time before the construction moves past them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what the intent was. We recommend that we approve the Sands construction change order. You can deny it and return it to staff. We will take the money from the parks. There's a parks special fund, and that's where the money will be drawn from. So I haven't, any questions?
I think it's great. I think that was one of my favorite features of the original plan was the battle crosses and the base and stuff. So I'm really glad that's getting put back in there. So.
It seems pretty reasonably priced based off of, I think last time it was way more than that, wasn't it, on that big bid?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I spent
a
about
good chunk of that's just for the plaques.
Yeah, I
like I
spent
said,
about
if we
30
can still
minutes.
accept donations for it, I think it's
Yeah.
a good hedge to
Yeah.
go ahead and do it.
I spent about 30 minutes out there today inspecting and looking over and talking to the people, and I'm impressed with the quality of work this company is doing, so I'm glad that they would be the ones doing it because they're really doing some really good work out there. I'm pretty pleased with it.
Are the actual battle crosses included, or is it just the base and the plaque?
It's the base with the plaque.
Okay, that's
And
what I
then the
thought.
Battle cross will go on top of
We
that.
already had those, I think, right? That
Pardon?
was already included, the battle crosses. This is just the base and the plaque.
It's just the base and the plaque, and then the battle crosses are another, well, current prices is $8,000 each. I would imagine it'll be $10,000 by next year. Like I said, we do have a donor that said next year, if you don't have them, I'll buy them all, put them all up there. But I'd like you to try to find some other people to help and step
right.
up. And that's where our task is right now, to see if anybody else will help and step up. But the the roadmap is there to get them in there next year.
Pretty cool that we got people that are willing to do that, so,
Yeah.
Make sure you tell them thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have had some very generous donors for multiple different things out there. So it's been good. And anyone else that wants to step up, we'd love to have it. I think it's great to support our veterans, and I know most of us have family, friends, siblings that are in the military and have served. So I think it's great honor to them, and very, very fitting for a park called Veterans Park. Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve change order number 4 with Sands Construction Company to install bases and plaques for battle crosses at Veterans Park Memorial.
Second.
Do we need to have the dollar amount in there, or are we just good with?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Let's put the dollar amount in there.
All right, yeah,
51.5.
Yep.
Do you have the amount or we need to get?
$50,515.
$15.71.
Yeah.
In the amount of $50,515.71.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to a discussion item in Spring Hill Municipal Code, Section 1-115, Employment of Seasonal Employees and Exemptions to the Employee Handbook for the City of Spring Hill, Kansas for seasonal employment. And Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Lowe, Mr. Lowe, you have the floor, either one. I'm just all messed up tonight.
My mom.
Sorry, guys.
Call her.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am here to propose a discussion regarding the employee handbook for the seasonal employees. So with all of the work that took place with us updating our handbook for our regular employees, I naively thought it would be very simple to just amend that handbook and then apply it to seasonal employees. However, as I was getting into that process, came to be aware that there are codes as well as ordinances related to the seasonal employment. And so the discussion tonight is just, and again, if we want to get into like the legal jargon and kind of all of the things about that, that's where Spencer's going to come in at. But the initial thought is that it would just be really simple, or not simple, it would be more effective and productive for us to appeal any type of codes and ordinances related to the seasonal employees and just have it to where if we have our existing handbook for all employees, be able to easily amend that and get that approved through council versus other steps that kind of complicate the process. So that's just the initial part of it, and some general questions that you may have, but again, anything related to the legal aspect of it, I'm gonna lean on Spencer for that.
So you would just be amending the current or the new one that we have to fit the seasonal employment issues or whatever needs to be in there?
That is what I would like to do.
Yeah. That seems reasonable.
So we would have one handbook for full-time employees and one for our seasonal part-time employees.
Okay.
To get that handbook for, there we go, to get that handbook for the seasonal, we have to repeal or change section 1-115, which sets forth a handful of guidelines for seasonal employees. And rather than having seasonal employees look partially to the city code and partially to their own handbook, it makes more sense to just put it all in one spot.
So we'd be,
which would the
we'd
handbook.
be separating the two, so there'd be one for full-time, one for seasonal.
Correct.
That seems to make sense to me, especially with how seasonal they are. They're not considered part-time or anything. They're really just very seasonal. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of parts of that full-time handbook. Monikisha and I took a good axe to it that just don't apply to the seasonal folks. So.
Yeah.
We strategically cut it down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Axe sounded pretty good.
All right, well,
Yeah.
I will work.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems,
Anybody have a
that's an
problem
easy
with it?
part.
Well, I feel like it needs to be done, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I will work with Spencer and we'll,
You guys will just bring it back to us at a later time?
yes.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Easy enough.
Sounds good. Well, that's it for formal council action. Next, we'll move on to announcements and reports. All I really have, it was the State of the City address this week, and thank you all that came, and thank you all to the governing body. I appreciate all I said this to some of you, and might not have got the chance to say it to all of you, but I really appreciate each one of your input and your expertise in lots of different areas, and I couldn't do this without you, so I appreciate each and every one of you and the entire staff. So, yeah, thank you, and with that, Mrs. Rowe.
No report?
Mr. Van Houten.
So it's springtime, the birds are chirping, the trees are blooming, and the road crews are working, right? So we got a lot of different road crews. I think there's been some questions about that. So I spoke with Rhonda today and Lane about this, and they're going to be putting some information out regarding specific projects. So just to put that out there for the public, and then maybe put them on the spot, but maybe you could speak just towards moving forward on Woodland, some different just plans that you're going to be bringing forth here in the next.
I can cover that.
Thanks.
On Woodland Road specifically, we've been working with the engineer. Engineer's been working with the contractor and developer on that, in that area. We're gonna be coming back to the governing body, hopefully with a plan in the next, what do you think, 30 days maybe? We're working through some processes. Worst case scenario, we'll have a temporary plan. We're hoping to come back to the governing body with a permanent fix that could be implemented in 2023 this summer. If we're unable to do that either financially or just due to time constraints, we'll implement a temporary fix for the road and then come back with a permanent fix in the spring of 2024. So, like I said, we'll be coming back within hopefully the next 30 days with a plan in place to address that. It is probably the worst road in town, and it needs something done. There's just been a few variables that we had to work through to get to the point where we can bring it back to the governing body.
And I can speak to that as well. We do realize Woodland is in very bad shape. I have personally driven it many times, and Lane has. In fact, one day the two of us both drove it separately, one in front of each other, and yeah, it was ridiculous. So we know it's in very rough shape, and it was worked on not that long ago, and there was a warranty on that work. So that's part of our roadblock. Just full transparency. That's part of the roadblock is there was a warranty on the work that was done. So we're dealing with the original contractor to see if they'll honor that warranty. And then also there was a lot of development done in that same area too. So that added to the deterioration of some of the entrances and stuff. So working through all that is a process. So it's not that we are not putting it as a priority. We very much are. There's just some roadblocks and some steps we have to go through before we can just throw some asphalt on it. So
Thanks. Thanks, Lane.
Mr. Peel.
Just one thing, Daffodil Days, pretty big spring event that the rec puts on every year is next Saturday, the 22nd. Will be at the Early Childhood Center, sometimes known as the Sheila Spring Hill Early Learning Academy, that building over there. So depending on the weather, it'll be inside or outside, but it's usually pretty well attended event and lots of spring stuff. I think the Parks Board usually has a booth there and stuff. So if you got nothing going on next Saturday, come check that out.
What time does that start?
You know what? I don't know off the top of my head.
Sorry to call you out right
9
on
or
the spot.
10 in the morning, something like that.
I'll say I feel like it's in the morning.
Yeah, it's usually in the morning, goes till a little bit after lunch. There'll be food trucks and food options, lots of craft vendors, usually a lot of homemade, handmade stuff. So
It's really wind dependent, right? That's what it was last year. I think the wind.
last year we were inside because of the wind.
Yeah.
We had wind problems.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Hey Lane, going back to roads, I could probably speak to it, but you may have a little more information on it. Just want to clarify something for the public on, a lot of people think that this temporary, the base repairs that are being made throughout town are part of the $5 million that was borrowed, but do you want to speak to that a little bit on where those funds are actually coming from? And also just let you guys know, those are base repairs that are being done for surface later on in the year. That's not the permanent fix right there where they're cutting strips of bad sections out. They're just trying to cut some of the worst sections out to prepare the base for future repairs.
Correct. We'll tag team this one. The short answer to that is the current repairs are not part of the $5 million. And then what we will do is we'll work with Kristen to staff to put that out on the website to give a map of the areas and the projects that we'll be doing. And I'll let Rhonda kind of go over the dollar amounts for each of those. It's Lincoln, Lone Elm, 191st.
South Victory.
Yes, and I'll let her give she's got the numbers in front of her with the information on the projects.
I also want to point out that the street work that's being done right now, preparing the base repairs and the crack sealing and that is street maintenance. It's not street projects. Very technical difference there. And the street maintenance this year is funded through not taxpayer, not property tax. The majority, the Johnson County work we're doing that with ARPA funds. And the Miami County work is a sales tax that's been in place for a number of years for roads and bridges. And so Spring Hill taxpayers are not the only ones that are helping fund those projects. So that's a good thing. On 183rd Street, the repair up there, we budgeted $1 million in the $5 million for that project. That street needs quite a bit of work. 199th, we have two projects there. The one that is from 169 west to the city limits or Clare Road, that's $1,060,000. And that is a Johnson County CARS project. More money than that's being spent on it, but Johnson County's spending that money, not Spring Hill. The third one is the Lincoln Street Phase 1, which is from Seats to 207th Street, is $874,000. Lincoln Street Phase 2, which is on the north end of it, is $281,000. Lone Elm Road repairs near Dayton Creek is a mill and overlay a section of the road and establish ditch lines. That is $1 million. And then the remaining money of $800,000 will be spent in 2024 for the road maintenance like we're doing out of ARPA funds this year. So that's a planning for next year. We'll put those details out on, like Elaine has said, we'll put those out on our social media and our website so that the public can see all the details. With the bonds, that $5 million is very specific. We can't change the projects. We can't add to the projects. We added the 199th Ridgeview to Renner, so that if there is surplus money there, like one of the projects comes in under budget, the bond was paid with a premium, so we actually got more than we had planned for the bond. That money can be spent on the 199th project. But we have to stay within those parameters, and we even define where 2024 maintenance will be in a map. So we won't be spending it on any other projects.
Thank you. And I know that was a lot of details, but I've seen a lot of things out there and just kind of wanted to clarify it for the public that what I saw was not actually accurate, so I wanted to.
One thing to clarify is that the current street maintenance where they're taking about a 2-foot swipe on the side of the road, that's to help maintain the integrity of the road, where it's sloughing off at the edges since there's not a curb and gutter in most of those areas. They will come back later with a crack seal later this year, and then on top of that, they'll put a chip seal on top of that. So it's not a finished product yet. It'll take them a while to get through the rest of that, and then I believe one of the last projects will be Harrison Street. They'll do a mill and overlay on that street.
And obviously, we would all love to have, really the permanent solution is curb and gutter, every street. But to do that, I mean, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars to do these city streets. So although we would love to do that, and if we have anybody out there that would like to donate several $100 million, we'll gladly accept it. But that's just not in the plans right now. So
The mill and replace is being done on some roads too that do have the curb and gutter. So like that application is being used in both scenarios and will likely work better in the curb and gutter situation.
Correct.
So
because ultimately water is what deteriorates most of the roads. So.
Neighborhoods with newer streets have curb and gutter.
Yeah.
We will also be bringing back during budget cycle recommendations from the engineer on potential putting in additional mill and overlay every year. We're going to look at the cost of that per block. We're hopeful that we can do at least 2 or 3 blocks a year, and over the course of a 10-year period of time, maybe we can get that up to 30 to 50 blocks total. But we're in the process of working with the engineer to come up with a cost estimate and see if that's something that we can work into the budget in addition to what we're planning to do in the next 2 to 5 years.
So with all that being said, obviously roads are a big priority of ours, and we're trying to do every last thing we can do and get every last dollar we can put towards roads to try to fix all the issues. Anyways, Mr. Young.
Well, and really just to piggyback that, I know we had talked about maybe doing multiple cost analysis on asphalt and concrete, because I know concrete's got a lot longer life, but it really doesn't have that much of an increase on the upfront costs. And I think even though we have to do a little bit less at the time, it'll last so much longer. It's something we need to probably start looking at too. I know Pat's been doing a lot of research on that lately, so yeah, that's my thing. I don't have anything else.
All right. Mr. Massey, do you have anything else to? Sorry, I got you right in the middle of the conversation.
Sure, I was in the middle of talking to Pat here. No, I'd just like to thank staff and the governing body. We've been coming up with a lot of ideas and a lot of changes over the last 8 months, and a lot of them have come to the governing body here just this evening and over the last few months. Sometimes changes are easy, sometimes they're not, but we're trying to make improvements. I would say on the streets, you know, it's not perfect, as we all know. We're gonna try to make the improvements as we can. And it's the same thing with updating the personnel handbooks, putting the financial plan in place. It's going to take some time, but I think we're moving on the right path, and I just wanted to thank staff and the governing body for allowing us and helping us move in that direction, because I think in '24 and on, we're gonna be positioned very well to address the growth of this community, which is coming, one way or the other. It's coming towards us. So we just need to be prepared for it and have everything in place for when the economy turns around, then we have that larger growth.
Mr. Burton.
Just a couple things real quick. We did get the comp plan started, so we're doing a special meeting next Thursday, and right now I know staff's working on taglines, whatever, phrases, and they came to me and they're like, "Hey, what do you think of these taglines?" And I don't know what you're talking about, but so they are working on that. So
Are they hashtag lines or just tags?
no taglines on, and it's only going to be for the comp plan. It's not a phrase for the community in the future and all that. So that's exciting. We've been wanting to get that going, and really pleased with the team. So next week it'll really kick off. So that's all I really have.
Yeah. And I think that's a big deal. I think we've all talked about the comp plan at some point or another over the last year and a half or 2 years. And so to really get that going, I think is exciting for the entire community, and especially for us up here as a governing body to really see that get going. So, Chief Henson.
Just a couple things. E-ticketing is actually going to go live on Monday. We had a couple of issues pop up which delayed the live go. And Axon, we received the body-worn cameras, and we will be issuing those out, and they will start being worn by all the officers this weekend. So we'll have 2 new systems in place. Much of this would not have occurred without the dedication and the ability to learn from YouTube and the application of that from Captain Khan. He's really been huge at making sure that all this technology stuff works. So we appreciate that. That's it.
Thank you.
No tagline.
Mr. Lowe?
No report, thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Okay, so this Saturday is Clean Up Spring Hill, and I know that some of our employees are participating in that, so I would like to, and that's at, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Or on April 15th. And just to let you know, I did look at your website, Daffodil Days is from 11 to 2, and it's free.
Thank you.
So-
I knew it was free.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the time.
So yeah, that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Dunn.
Believe it or not, I have something else to say. Actually, I have a couple of pieces of good news. All of you received your financial snapshot tonight, and there's something important on the front of it that we've added that I want to tell you about. In the news recently, you've seen a couple of bank failures, which is in our world an uncommon thing, and hope it's going to remain uncommon. By statute, FDIC insurance, the city's funds in the banks far exceed FDIC insurance, and how it works by statute is that the banks that hold our funds have to buy and pledge securities guaranteeing the taxpayers' money. And so you'll always see at the bottom, it's something I monitor every month with the bank officials, and they make sure that they buy more securities as we put more money in the bank. And I try to really communicate to say, hey, we're sending bond payments out, the balance is gonna drop. Hey, we're getting a bond issue, it's gonna increase. And so I just want you to be aware that that's there on the front. If the amount in the bank is ever more than the pledged securities, I have some explaining to do. But that is required by statute, and it is a cost to the bank to do business with us, to hold those securities, but they also get to use our money as well. There is also, just so you know, required a tri-party agreement. So the bank and us and a third-party bank. The third party holds the securities so that if our local bank were to fail, and I have no thought that they would, we would reach out to the third party and get 100% of the money that's coming to us. If we let the local bank hold the pledges, when they say they're gonna pay their account holders 50 cents on the dollar, we would only get 50 cents. And so we have all the things in place we're required to have, and regardless of the condition of the banks, the taxpayers' money is secure. That's the point of the front of the report. The other thing is something I'm super excited about. A lot of good things happening tonight. We are engaging Baker Tilly. I think you may have seen some information about this. We are engaging Baker Tilly using their service, which is called Grant Pursuit. And so I sent our CIP and some other projects we have, and they have gone out and they focus a lot on ARPA opportunities, Department of Commerce, there's new stuff with the state government, as well as the federal IIJA, the infrastructure money, and they're looking for opportunities and grants for our projects. So it's another funding source for us. It is also, each step of the way, they've done the pursuit part. We're meeting with them this week to get the initial report to say, here's our data mining where we think you can apply. And then they prepare the grant application, make the application for us. We can stop them anywhere in the process and do it ourselves. I view it as a teach me how to fish, don't give me a fish. I hope that we someday get good at that, but for the rates I think are super reasonable. I think it's a great way to put experts to work for us, and I'm excited that in a week's time, they already have a report ready for us. So I also think then our projects will be teed up when you get a last minute grant request or a member of Congress who says, hey, I have this opportunity to include something in a bill, we'll be ready to go, as opposed to scrambling around and figuring it out. We'll be much further down the line. I think it's gonna be a great use of their services and another opportunity with Baker Tilly.
Did I see on there too that park grants and stuff were included on there as well?
Yes, and walking trails, and
Yeah.
I think about the comprehensive plan that's coming up. There's gonna be a lot of opportunity to whatever the next dream is. Hopefully we'll be able to find some other government money to help us do those projects. The last thing I have is we've hired a new utility billing clerk, and she will start on Monday. And her name is also Rhonda, so we're gonna have to figure that out.
Forget her name.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Mrs. Jones.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Messer.
Nothing.
All right. With that ends formal council and announcements and reports. Let's move on. We have executive session number 1 next. And if somebody would like to do a motion on that one.
Does anybody need a
Do we need a
brief?
bathroom break for anybody?
How long is this first one?
First one's 15.
15.
I'm okay.
I'm good for going straight.
I'm good.
Okay. I move the city council recess into executive session for 15 minutes to receive advice of council to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception of KSA 75-4319 Bravo 2 of the Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9:12 PM. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Mr. Lane Massey, City Administrator; Ms. Glenda Garrity, City Clerk and Director of Community Services; Mr. Pat Burton, Community Development Director; Ms. Rhonda Dunn, Finance Director; Mr. Spencer Lowe, City Attorney; and Mr. Tyler Ellsworth, Bond Counsel.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. We'll see you shortly.
Just you, just me.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened into open meeting at 9:12 PM. No votes were taken or discussions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. Now we'll move on to executive session number 2. With that, I entertain a motion to move into executive session number 2.
I move the city council.
Sorry, go ahead.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive advice of counsel pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception of KSA 75-4319 Bravo 2 of the Kansas Opens Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 9:23
Yeah, good enough.
PM. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Mr. Spencer Lowe, city attorney.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. We will see you guys shortly.
I know, great, man, great.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Let the record reflect the governing body reconvened into open meeting at 9:23 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. And with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Waiting for one person to say
Yeah,
that
somebody-
someday, but nobody.